Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, witnesses, for your time. First, I just want to express my concern for the process that produced the discussion draft of this cryptocurrency regulation bill. For months last year, House Democrats held hearings to build understanding and establish a consensus around the regulatory gaps with this emerging technology. Then House Republicans continued this work in a bipartisan fashion, capping off months of work with a fact-finding subcommittee hearing on the issue. So far, so good. Unfortunately, now we are holding a full hearing to discuss a highly technical bill almost half the committee saw for the first time at the end of last week. This is not how the Ag Committee is supposed to work. I sincerely hope that this committee can return to its bipartisan traditions and that we engage in meaningful hearings that address the concerns many of us have. It is essential that a bill addressing these regulatory gaps is passed this Congress. Just today, the SEC sued Binance, demonstrating the urgent need for this regulation. In addition, blockchain technology in general and its fintech applications specifically hold so much promise that we are missing out on. There is a bipartisan consensus that government regulation is what is needed to create jobs, build wealth, and protect our constituents. Sadly enough, one hand doesn't seem to know what the other is doing. I'm referring to the fact that while everybody in here agrees on the need for this regulation, and we have heard from the testimony that this requires more funding, that is precisely the opposite of what our colleagues on the Appropriations Committee did. As we are putting more on their plate, the Appropriations Committee has cut their budget by almost $9 billion, down to the lowest levels since FY 2006. To be clear, we are asking the CFTC to take on a whole new regulatory process while simultaneously cutting their budget by 33%. So my first question is, what the impact would be if the current budget were passed and the agency was asked to take on these tasks with equal or lesser funding, particularly the impacts on consumers and the industry?
Thanks, Congresswoman. Focusing just even on our traditional markets, if our funding levels were to drop from $365 million to $345 million, given increased costs, given increased level of, I would say, participation from new registrants and new entrants into our markets, it would be extremely difficult and, quite frankly, and I've used this word before, devastating to the agency, given all that we're all facing in terms of, as I said, increased costs. We'd probably have to furlough quite a number of our staff. We have about 680 full-time equivalents right now, and if we were to drop down about 20 million, that would be a huge challenge. And I say this often, I said it earlier, and I will repeat this for the committee, the CFTC is a good return on investment for the U.S. taxpayer. We return nearly $8 for every dollar invested in us over the past 10 fiscal years. And this is through enforcement, this is through protecting customers, this is through information to financial illiterate individuals who are being taken advantage of. So I would hope that we can at least hit our full funding and get our request so that we can continue to do our job, especially if this new authority is provided to us.
Thank you so much. Mr. Benham, you mentioned in your testimony, and it was also brought up in the subcommittee, the potential of creating an independent funding source for administering these regulations. Could you expound upon how such a model could fit into this bill?
Thanks, Congresswoman. We are the only financial regulator to not have a user fee-based system. Mixed up those letters there. And it has proven to be a huge challenge for the agency, quite frankly, for quite some time, a number of decades. And I think since 2010, after the financial crisis, as our responsibilities significantly increased, we faced quite a bit of strain from a budget perspective because of flat funding over a number of years. So I think with respect to this new authority, it would be very important for this committee and the Congress to consider a user fee-based system where it would essentially be a fee-for-services system. So those who are registered with us would have to pay a proportional fee over the course of a year to fund the services that we provide.
Thank you so much. And with that, I'll yield.